Hey guys, it's Matt. Welcome back to another episode of Midnight Reality, which is similar to the old-fashioned radio show, but there won't be any cringe-worthy jokes or any stupid sponsors. This episode is about something I ponder all the time, and we haven't really talked about it for a long time. I'll look to your comments. The people that know everything. Well, I don't mean that literally, but there is a group here that knows a whole lot about how this reality works. We talk about the minions, the asshole dark and the not minions pull their reality buttons and levers, similar to what was presented in the movie, the Adjustment Bureau? Is that another movie with Matt Damon? Oh my God. Great Wall popped up the other. I'll try to keep this as serious as I can for as long as I can. The Adjustment Bureau is a general sense of what I'm talking about. I don't mean that literally or what's presented in the movie. How small is the group here that generally know how this reality works, generally have an idea of what it is? Now, I think that group is far smaller than most people in our community or the first grade truther believes everybody's in the know, everybody's in on it. Like a person like Melvin P. of the Belinda and Melvin P. Gates Foundation, if he's been focusing on health and stay safe and the Action Jacksonation, that's the segment he's been focusing on. Even for that segment, I don't believe a minion of that level understands even 25% of what's going on. And just in that particular bucket, asked Bill how politics works or this. I don't think he has a clue. I think the truth community has given these people too much credit. I think the group that, quote, understands how things work here is very, very small. And I'm not talking about, they know that this mall event or school event is cake in a lake. I'm not talking about little trivial things like that. I'm talking about how this entire reality operates. We can have a conversation along the lines of time does not exist for certain reasons because of certain proofs, that no moment can be isolated as it's happening, only in a retro fashion looking backwards. If you look how time can be recorded as the technology improves, it proves it doesn't exist very easily, almost to a second grader. And if time doesn't exist, the entire reality itself doesn't exist. It's just perception. For example, they've known for, hundreds of years you could isolate time to a second. Then for certain sporting events or the Olympics, at some point, brought in a tenth of a second. Who knows when that was? Probably measuring runners to a tenth of a second in the 60s. Maybe. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But then swimming events to a hundredth of a second. And now the technology exists to isolate when somebody crossed the finish line or whatever to a thousandth of a second. Well, does anybody think that technology is done? It will continue to expand. Then that someday, of course, it will be a 10,000th of a second. Because you can continuously slice and dice time on that side of the decimal point, there is nothing tangible you ever get to. You will always be able to go then at 100,000th of a second. I can't even say it. 100,000th. Matt, don't get there yet. Be serious for at least for a little while. Somebody could be in the room. I haven't gotten them out of the room yet. Sorry. 1 millionth of a second. 1,000 years from now, nothing can ever be found. Whenever you get to a situation with continuous Russian nesting dolls on that side of the decimal point, well, there's nothing there. Time doesn't okay, the point is, forget that. We're not going to get into this big thing about time. There's a lot of other proofs. Time doesn't exist. All perception from consciousness. But from their perspective, the creeps at the creepy table, okay, somebody knows all of this. And time, or what it is not, is just one example of 1,000 things that they know. They know what space is. They know what the sun is. They know what the moon is. It goes on and on and on. So where is this group? We'll ponder it. How small is it? I think it's very small. And then there's the dynamic that they will not share this with who you think a leading scientist is. They're sent off to do their own research down a dead-end path, the science for the masses, what they want the masses to believe about the world. Most science conducted at universities, I think, is dead-end science. So, some would say it might be relatively recent. And some would say, no, this is a different entity, ancient bloodlines, Tony calls them sequential incarnations. They carry knowledge forward, and they've always known, and that's their role here. So what I ponder once in a while, just for fun, is, okay, I don't, when I keep referring to this group that knows everything, like the Adjustment Bureau, I don't mean literally like the movie, like they're going to come in and tell Matt Damon to go left down this road instead of right and repath his life. And I'm just saying a tiny group that knows the inner workings of this place, or the metaphysics. And, if we're coming up with a lot of this stuff in our community, just people sitting around in frayed sweatshirts like assholes, as we're coming up with a lot of it, at least seeing, if not having all the answers, examining what Neil of Grass Fed would say, or what's presented on CNN about this aspect of science, and just saying, that's bullshit. And we can see it's all bullshit in many different areas. We might not have the exact answer. Well, if we're doing it, certain research scientists, they're at Cambridge, or they have access to hundreds of millions of dollars of experimentation equipment. They're quite smart. So what I ponder, or like to ponder, is, what did this Adjustment Bureau that's associated with the creepy table come in and do to people, or to proposition certain scientists that are coming to certain conclusions about how this reality works that they really shouldn't. There's maybe saying things that they shouldn't, talking about time in a way that they shouldn't, talking about space in a way that they shouldn't. That's what I ponder. We have all different types of groups and different types of people listening, but I assure you, most of what we would call old guard, they're going to see it the way I see it. They're going to see that there is a group here that knows things that the top astrophysicist at the University of Pennsylvania or Yale is not going to know, even at that level. I think, again, these scientists are led down scientific dead ends, and the Adjustment Bureau knows they'll get nowhere because they just don't understand the basics. I think less scientists and astrophysicists today are saying what they shouldn't be saying, because we observe almost everybody's on the download. In fact, the smarter you are, the more likely you are to be on the download or the radio station of the frequency. So the Adjustment Bureau doesn't have to visit probably too many in university research science parks today. In the old days, the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, I think the frequency or their technologies were lacking, and you had more people speaking out in ways the Adjustment Bureau wouldn't want them to speak out, in my opinion. If you're on that frequency, it doesn't matter how smart you are, you will always be doing the research the Not Nelk wants you to do. You'll never truly see through this reality. But over time, this Adjustment Bureau type thing, there's had to have been certain scientists going back how many years in different, that, these are smart people, okay, that started talking. Time can't possibly exist. And because of that, this reality doesn't exist. And I don't mean that, with Nick Bostrom or whatever, that's all a way to hijack it in the ninth inning, that they'll put out what they want in this. Oh, Matt, that's already been said. No, they put out similar things to hijack it. Like, what was it, 5 or 6, 7 years ago? You think the CIA really released a document about how the world is illusory, really trying to help people? I mean, if you go through that document, there does appear to be a ton of, I don't know what it's called. Many of you know what I'm talking about. There does appear to be a ton of truth there, but I doubt it's not a last-minute hijack or just to get you close, but then here's where metaphysical reality really can be figured out, which they know, or this small group knows. We'll keep calling them the Adjustment Bureau. And somebody's screaming at me right now, and I can hear you. Matt, they leak that crazy stuff because they know it's actually because they have to. It's all true. Nobody will believe it. There's actually no deception in it. It's so unbelievable that people will just gloss it over and just say, whatever. I don't know. It could be one or the other. There's a lot of truth in that leaked document, in my opinion. Do I know for sure? No. But somebody, at some point, what we were talking about, professors and different people in science have started talking about certain things. And one thing I find that's very fun to ponder is, how did this Adjustment Bureau, or even today, how does it deal with these research scientists that are saying the wrong things? Or, there's a million examples. Say there's a scientist at a university research park, I don't know, in the 60s, that is saying that I don't think the sun is really what we believe it to be. And I know that sounds crazy, but I have this $100 billion equipment, and there's a whole series. Again, whatever the topic may be, guys. I don't mean, again, the topic about World War II in Utah Beach the other day triggered people. Is it really matter the example? If you don't like this example, then substitute your own. I mean, it's in general. So somebody might be saying, a research scientist, about the sun. Well, he doesn't understand, or she doesn't understand, that there's this creepy table, one world system. The old money still exists. Certain things about the world that we understand that just must be, that person who lives in normal mainstream life isn't going to know about that. To that person at the university research park, the top astrophysicist for whatever, they think, oh, the government's there to help everybody, and that sort of thing. They're just naive, whatever, and they start saying the wrong things. So I don't think the sun is exactly what we believed it to be. How does that work? Okay, that's what's so fun about this. Okay, we've been shown in movies different scenarios. Tommy Lee Jones shows up, Will Smith with a pen, the Men in Black. Mr. Humperdincker, can we have a word? Are you the research scientist that is going to put out that white paper next month about how the sun isn't what we believed? Oh, you are? Can you come with us, please? Let's go. Do you like bagels, coffee, crimpet? Let's go have a cup of tea and let's talk. I mean, how does that work? Right? Because, Matt, nobody ever has come up with anything against the not milk. No, come on. There's some real people out there. And I know there's more today that are on the download, the radio station, the frequency. Happens less today because people are so brainwashed. The smarter they are, the more brainwashed they are. But over time, it had to have happened many, many times. And how does the creepy table or the not milk deal with that? It's like, who are you people? Why do you want to talk to me? Yeah, I'm putting that white paper out. Who are you people? It was like, what is it, from the Imitation Game, where, what does he say? I'm MI6, and they think they know everything. Well, British intelligence only has up to MI5, like they would know anything. No, there's a lot of things you don't know. We're MI6, or whatever the numbers were presented in the Imitation Game. Same thing. And who are you people? What agency are you with? Don't ask. We can't tell you. How do they present that? You know, threatened and paid, silver and gold. So that's where, again, it's like, okay, all we can do, you and I, is think through toy box examples, pedestrian examples, or between the bookends examples as to how the not milk or the creepy table would deal with that. Even assigning it the creepy table is inappropriate and rudimentary. It could be more like the Adjustment Bureau, a supernatural who knows how they deal with it. We can ponder a lot of strange things based on sci-fi movies, but the most important thing is you get a sense that when we come up with these, quote, pedestrian or toy box explanations, we just know they're not right. Well, what else could there, Matt? Scientists certainly over time have said things that the not milk doesn't want them saying about what the sun is, what space is, what germ theory, anything. How many hundreds of things could they come up with that's against what the mainstream is trying to protect through its Ministry of Information? So all we can come up with is, well, they have to be visited by dark figures and Men in Black and threatened and paid. We just sense that's not how it works, right? Is it? See, that's what's so interesting about this going through this process is you feel, I'm almost like embarrassed sometimes when I say, well, what happens? The Men in Black come in. You just know it doesn't work that way. There's a whole host of weird shit going on in this reality that we'll never know as long as we're alive in the body. And if somebody said it's more like the Adjustment Bureau and weird people walking through portal doors, and I'd be more apt to believe there's weird shit like that going on than it's just the rudimentary, they're visited by the CIA and said, don't talk. It just doesn't work anymore. And I think that's the most important. We'll never figure it out, but that's okay. It's still fun to ponder. But I think the most important takeaway is to not always have to go back to the toy box. Oh, no, well, Matt, there's no other explanation. They had to be visited by dark figures, and they had to be told not to publish that white paper. It just doesn't work anymore, does it? We've seen too many weird things. You can have little groups visiting people all over the world saying don't talk. That doesn't work anymore. That's kind of the biggest takeaway from this type of conversation, to get people out of that. Well, how do we find the answer then? The ultimate answer is we don't have to find the answer, and we shouldn't even care to or try to. It's fun to do this, but the best way to come out on the other side is simply not give a shit. And that has nothing to, all of this stuff is fun, has nothing to do with your part two, the work, the worry about yourself activities, all of that. That's the best way to come out the other side, where you literally, by my heel, Mercutio, by my heel, I care not, come out the other side and say, how is it that 35 or 40 years have gone by and we don't have one story of a research scientist kind of saying things that they shouldn't be saying, or going off the narrative, the accepted narrative of what science, the dead-end science that they give the populations and the great unwashed and the proletariat. We never hear about anything. And how do they cover that up? How do they do it? And through these exercises, you can see it becomes a reality breakdown. Unless the first grade truther wants to step up and get up in my business and say, Matt, you don't understand their infrastructure. They can send men in black around to all these places and keep people quiet. Okay. You just want to believe that. That's just, Matt, you can't figure it out, so you just say reality breakdown. That's your famous cop-out. Believe whatever you want. The ultimate reason to go through this example is to come out the other side and just say, get to a point where you just go, it's fun to talk about, but truly, in terms of having to research and understand it, I don't give a shit. By my heel, I care not, and it has nothing to do with what I have to do here for myself in this little tiny blink that we have left. Oh, that was an eye reference, I guess, right, Czar, who's right here in my face? Here's another example. Let me read the segment of what Ianto emailed me. So it's like, we of the frayed sweatshirts and the great unwashed can figure out a lot of this stuff. But, then that means others who aren't supposed to be figuring out have figured it out. And somehow that whatever they figure out just goes away and never comes out. I mean, it's just a completely different example. Let me read this. Human culture has the direction of causality back to front. Human culture has the direction of causality back to front. Our maths and science say that something unidentifiable caused all that is physical, and then all that is physical causes the maths to be true. But this is, of course, impossible, because correct math never changes, while the physical is inherently subject to change. That which never changes cannot be emergent from that which is always changing. We have cause and effect completely, literally backwards, and so all of our societal systems are backwards and effed up. Basically, you can't, problems similar to the problems I have with the Big Bang. And there's so many problems with a ridiculous theory like the Big Bang, basically saying something that can't truly be known or understood, which they call the Big Bang, and it's the ultimate example, by the way, of the second law of thermodynamics, entropy, caused the physical, which has an underlying fabric or structure of a perfect mathematical structure. So the impossible entropy caused a perfect mathematical structure that then physical things are based from, and the physical things are always changing, and the quote, God of this world is change. Nothing ever stays the same. To me, it's one of the main reasons we incarnated here, is to experience such incredible change. Whether it be bad or good, embrace it and stop and notice the change. I still have a begonia on my railing around the side of the deck here that has red flowers still. I haven't looked at it for a day or two. I think it's still alive. I can't believe it. It's so late, but it will, in a day, or it's been cold the last 2 days, it will wither. And it's so incredible to me. The leaves are falling and nothing here stays the same. It's incredible when that's just so routine to us. That's just like breathing air. But from potentially where you came from, that is incredible. Every little bit of change. A broken glass is an amazing experience. I'm almost positive, like where we came from, change was 100 times less or 10,000 times less than what we experience here. That's what time is for. The purpose for time in a reality system is to create change, at least from the perception of real people. You need the time to do that. That's what time is for. Change as a concept is greater than time. Time creates or allows us to experience the change. If you're sitting in a chair right now and you just put your hand up in the air and wave at the bird that's looking at you through the glass, you cannot put your hand up in the air without time. That's where space-time, that's all related in the mathematical models. Nothing can move through space without time, without that frame of reference. Who knows how much of this existed from wherever we came from? Probably, maybe none of it. So a lot of the change we experience here is not good. But, we really can do better at embracing and seeing the wonder in all of it, even something bad. But getting back to the main topic and not straying too far, you have complete jerks like me in frayed sweatshirts and other smart people in this community. And look, like that email I just read from Ianto, and we're all putting the pieces together and taking pretty big steps in the right direction. Again, we don't have to know any of this. Again, you don't have to say that every time. We understand a way about yourself. Just shut up. Sorry. We don't have to know, but okay, so the point is, we have no resources, so you have no proof. We're just jerks in frayed sweatshirts, and we're not getting close, but we're in the ballpark. So obviously, there's a lot of people that have access to a lot of resources, and that have gotten a lot closer. And does that bring your Chernobyl aluminum Ducati control center back into play with its sister control center at 3 Mile Island, where Jane Fonda visited in the China Center? There's a professor at UCLA that's saying things he shouldn't. Send your Matt Damon Adjustment Bureau now. Okay, do Men in Black then scramble in the bat plane? No. Who knows? See, that's the thing. It's so bizarro. All we can come up with is the Men in Black have to go pay visits and pay people and threaten them. And it doesn't work anymore. And again, the point is, as you see it doesn't work, then reality, to me, it just breaks down further. It becomes more of a giant yellow steamy breadcrumb that's not really worth figuring out, but it's still fun to have these conversations. Regarding time, how long have they known? Some scientists in 1940, or did they know since the king put the scepter in their hand in ancient Babylon, or before Moses and the Hebrews, and before that, all that stuff went down with King Ramses and whatever. All I know is the shit I see on television, the Ten Commandments. I watch it every Easter. Maybe they knew back then, time doesn't exist. But there's got to be many professors or astrophysicists when they're discussing, say, Einstein's theory of relativity. I don't want to do a sidebar. I don't need some first grade truther yelling at me at who Einstein was or was not. I'm well aware of all this potential horse shit. Let it go. So the theory of relativity, where as you approach the speed of light, time slows down. Well, they've supposedly proven this with certain clocks that are so perfect that the jet that has one of these clocks that goes 2,000 miles an hour, Mach 3, whatever, the time is just a tiny, 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 tiny bit off the time that was left on the ground. I think this has been, there are theories on this as time slowing down as you increase speed. I believe they've been proven. I believe it's all faked and everyone's in on it and all faked. No, okay, but what is that? Then some scientists would easily come to the conclusion that any one of us jerks would. Some scientists, well, this proves time doesn't exist. It can't be, whatever this is, it can't change if it is what most people believe it is based on your speed, or it doesn't make any sense. So a lot of people probably started talking about the wrong things, the things that the creepy table did not milk, didn't want them talking about, and who knows how they come in and fix it. Maybe they send those two guys at the end of Caddyshack. Hey, Smales, what's his name? Talk to Bruno and Rocco here. The judge owes me money. Matt, now it's breaking down. Yeah, okay. At some point, it's going to break down. At some point, I either have to get a little giddy or I'll go insane. Wouldn't you rather put up with a few cringeworthy jokes than to have me go insane right here during the recording? Is that what you want? As everything we look at breaks down, to me, it's just more proof in the fake world bucket. One more toy you can place in the fake world bucket. And there's so many now. I mean, even things that come from science. The continuous, or I guess what would you call it? The speed of light is a constant. Is that the way you would talk about it if you were Harvard educated and you weren't like me? They took my application in high school and just made a paper airplane with it and threw it out the window. I think I never submitted. My SATs were I had very good grades. My SATs were lousy. The math section, it was like, it was literally like opening up Mandarin. And Ianto, and they say maths in the UK, the maths. It's math here. So no, I never submitted an application in high school to Harvard. I did Penn State and the University of North Carolina. I knew nothing about the University of North Carolina except I liked the basketball team, whatever. Michael Jordan was a few years earlier, and they laughed at my application too. I said, look at these, this guy from Pennsylvania went in here. Look at these SAT scores. The verbal, the math is an absolute joke. And he wants in here. Tell him that Yankee son of a beach. Tell him to stand. Hey, and thanks for your $40. Now fuck off. It's like a Bill Clinton, Monica Lewinsky t-shirt. All I got were these stains. Like I sent $40 to the University of North Carolina and spent 2 hours on an application, and all I got was a 1-page letter back telling me to go F myself. You know, the really funny part of having this sort of conversation is if we ever got somebody like my high school friend Tony, or one of your best friends, or Aunt Ginny. Of course, they say to us, I can hear Tony now, Occam's razor. Occam's razor. Matt, there is no conspiracy. Matt, what's more likely? That the world works the way you, great unwashed proletariat son of a beaches, think it works, where everything has to be covered up, and the Adjustment Bureau, you have whole conversations about the Adjustment Bureau, how they keep certain scientists quiet, and everything has to fit together perfectly, and paid and threatened, and nothing can be leaked, and nobody can ever make a mistake, and everything has to be pulled off time after time. What's more likely, Matt, that that's existing in your little insane asylum world, or that maybe what Wikipedia says really happened? Then you don't need that impossible string of Lemony Snicket's unfortunate event coincidences, you son of a beach. What's more likely, Matt? That there's this gigantic world war. The whole world is a conspiracy, and creepy tables, and everybody's in on it, and pulled off, and paid and threatened, and hijacked and what? Hijacked and trapped. I mean, what's more likely, Matt? Get your head out of your ass. Or that the world is basically what the news says and you're out to lunch. I'd say back, Tony, that from an Occam's razor perspective, you're exactly right. But you know how I know we're right? One of 10 million examples. Going back to 2001, for example, I know that if I ball up tinfoil, I can't throw it through a 10,000-pound steel beam. So and then there's like 10,000 other things. They go along with each pound in the steel beam. If I forget balled up tinfoil, if I ball it up and then flatten it out and I make it into a paper airplane, I can't throw it through a steel beam. So see, I understand a lot of weird shit has to go on for our view of reality to be correct. But I'm certainly not going to say we were wrong for the past 20 years and then jump back on your dumbass ship of fools. And once again, this sort of conversation leads us right back to the same place. The only conclusion that matters. The same destination needs to be arrived at every single time. That there is no right and wrong in this reality. And of course, I'm not talking about morals of right or wrong. I'm talking about in terms of figuring out a Not Milk or Wikipedia presentation. There is no position on a certain news presentation that is more correct or more just than another position. Even we get back to ball up the tinfoil, hammer it out into something like a plane wing, into something like a plane wing, and can that pass through not only a brick wall, but something 100,000 times stronger than a brick wall, a 10,000-pound steel beam? Well, certainly, Matt, there's a winner to that argument. No. in the weeds level, there appears to be a winner to that argument, and the ship of fools argument to you must be less correct or not correct at all, and your position is more just, more righteous. That is an in the weeds argument. The Not Nilk is completely satisfied if you're there. There is no winning any side to anything the Not Nilk tries to pull us into. The only winning move War Games Whopper Computer is not to play, to get on with the worry about your self-activities and the part to the work. A reality that can morph and always attract the attention of the type of individual or entity or person that's looking at it, and can create more breadcrumbs based on the person watching. That is very similar, by the way, to the double slit experiment. You know, if you're triggered by I'm triggered by the double slit experiment, well, there's a truth drop there. I don't double slit, doublemint gum. It doesn't matter. Reality morphs to what people expect and want to find. No real world can do that. Therefore, it's a fake joke of a world. Stop giving it so much credence and credibility. Stop worrying about it and get on with your part to worry about your self-activities. One last note, I still send out the old book that I started in 2018 it's called A Reality Few Can See. That was read on YouTube. I changed the name a few times. And when it pushed over 700 pages, it was too big to print. I never printed it. I'm still PDFing it out to people. I don't like the fact that it's just riddled with trying to understand conspiracy. You know, what is the Great Seal of the United States? What did happen to the Titanic? We were in the weeds back then when I started the book in 2018. This is pushing 2024. It's almost 6 years later. I mean, we have progressed. The book now, and the chapters I'm reading, completing typically every Tuesday, is more final observations about reality, not in any way diving into the weeds, into the conspiracy. So I don't like that aspect of the book. But the one thing I was going to say, and it's still available if anybody emails me and says, just Matt, send me the PDF, I'll send it out. The one thing that it is eye-opening in terms of the amount of impossible things presented. For example, my favorite section is still the what are the chances, and I don't know if does that push like 50 pages? And then if the world were real. And back to back, it might push around 100 pages. What are the chances that the King's Chamber of the Great Pyramid is on the latitude line is the exact match of 9 digits of the speed of light in meters per second squared? And I mean, just all this stuff that's just impossible if you put even 15 or 20 back to back. What happens when you put hundreds back to back? It just screams no real world could do this. It just screams impossible. The probabilities, that's what I like about the If the World Were Real section. And, what are the chances? What are the chances that Prince died on the exact same day that the Queen was celebrating her birthday, both celebrating or using the slogan Purple Rain at the same time, with a slight variation in the RAIN versus REIG, and then on the I Would Die For You, April 21st. It just goes on and on and on and on and on. And you go through the If the World Were Real, what are the chances section, you just get a few pages in, you're like, no real world could do this. This is ridiculous. This is friggin' ridiculous. I don't know what would happen. At first, I was going to say what would happen if I gave it to my friend Tony or somebody. And okay, they can have, for any one thing we've ever talked to them about, of course, they have an excuse. They'd be able to explain it away, or it's a coincidence. But then what about through the second page of it, the third page of it? I would, first of all, because they could not come up with an excuse for every single one, page after page after page after page, they would never sit down. They would know, as somebody on the frequency or on the download, they would know never to put themselves in that situation where me sitting next to Tony at a table where let's spend 3 hours going through the what are the chances or if the world was real sections, because they just know, like on the frequency of this reality, or like an NPC, that it would like glitch them out, or they just can't keep explaining it away. So my theory would be they would never, ever be in that situation. Meaning I don't believe I would ever be able to, almost under any circumstance, sit down and beg Tony, can you spend an hour with me and reconcile this, and we'll sit side by side with our reality spheres kind of conjoining. I just think he would sense that would glitch him out or would destroy his world, or who knows, he would never put himself in that situation. Just like How many people have I offered, hey, come and look at the old Mac. I'll show you how ridiculous some of these events are. No one will ever sit with me. I mean, you guys will in our community, but nobody in their community, nobody in the Ship of Fools will ever sit with me to look at the old Mac. These are reality symptoms, or if you prefer, reality giveaways. And as usual, it all points back to the same thing: fake world. And that's scary, Matt. Fake world. Oh no, that's the greatest news of all time. Fake world means that the faker the world is, the more real you are. Fake world means it's just a construct of some kind that you decided to go into. Maybe we can't leave after one and done, but we certainly aren't perpetually or inevitably trapped here. We could be, in a sense, trapped until we do the work we need to do for ourselves. We're not trapped by an evil entity or a Saturn moon matrix, and that's over us, or we have no power over it, or we're truly screwed. I think all that is absolute bullshit. Maybe we can't leave because we haven't done what we need to do for ourselves. That has nothing to do with a jailer or being completely stuck in Shawshank. If you're going to talk about the potential light trap or tricks at death or archonic beings or Saturn moon matrix, and if you're just even going to entertain it, let alone talk about it in video after video after video, just dwell on it. I mean, those that do dwell on it, the only position that matters is this. And do they talk about this, these people that dwell on Saturn moon matrix? Are you ultimately more powerful than the tricks or the tricksters? Or are the tricksters like Warden Norton in Shawshank? Did they hold that as a power over you? Do these people talk about that? Okay, you know what my position is going to be. That even if there is some sort of a trick or whatever, ultimately it still would be a role player in this reality. Maybe we have to do other things to graduate out, to merge back with what some call the higher self. Ultimately, I don't feel I was ever tricked to come in here. I believe, like Tony has stressed, we choose to come in here. The higher self will get us out when we've done what we're supposed to do. That puts our power over this entire system. That's what my belief is, even though I admit I'll never understand the details. I don't know exactly what's going to happen to me at death. But the most important thing is, where is your mindset in terms of, are you the top of the org chart, or is it archonic beings? It seems like those that constantly dwell in the Saturn moon matrix, maybe they do address this. I don't listen to hardly any other YouTube channels anymore, but I doubt they address this. Do they stress that they believe they're more powerful, or do they seem to me stress, no, the jailer is more powerful, and they have to fit? What is Wes Penray? Is he still talking about having to crawl through a grid or something? That puts the jailer at, maybe you just manifested that power and just gave that power to the jailer. Did you ever consider that? Thinking you got to find your way through a grid or something? I assure you, when the day of my death, I will be very confident that I have the ultimate say and power. Okay, we tricked. This whole reality is a trick. The entire reality, most people that are the old guard here would see, yes, it's a trick. So why wouldn't whatever these stories are that we're screwed, Saturn moon matrix, there's a presence or an evil over us, why wouldn't that be part of the same trick? Though that's the only thing here that just escapes the fact that the entire reality system's a trick. Every single food in the cafeteria is bad or rotten or has botulinum poison. There's not one thing, but this food, Matt, let me show you this food down the end. This is you can eat this. Well, the whole lineup of buffet is bad and rotten and skunked and colostrum poisoned, but this food's good. Does that make any sense? Well, that's maybe not the greatest example. Whatever, you talk on the fly for almost 40 minutes. See if you're not crazy by the time the 40-minute mark comes, like it's about to come in a moment. God forbid I would have stopped the video at the 33 mark. I knew Matt was one of those guys. Sorry. So, no, the whole reality is a trick. So if it seems like there's a jailer that's more powerful than us, and sorry, that to me is just part of the trick. And I'm going to be very confident, as I am already, that I'm ultimately the most powerful one, not a jailer that's going to send a little archonic being down at the moment of death and I want to go back in the light, go back in the light. It will be no problem for people like us. You know why? Because we said so. We're not going to manifest a jailer on ourselves at the moment of death like too many YouTube channels seem to do. Oh, we'll talk about this. I don't know how we got to this part from the first part, but we'll talk about this a lot more in future videos. Thanks for listening.